Where do we even begin with that? I think that for women, we have attached so much of our self-worth to our bodies, and we have been taught to do that from a young age. There are studies that show that kids as young as the age of 4 to 6 are already afraid of becoming fat.
Today we have Katy who joins us. She is a non-diet dietitian, and she talks to us about the stigmas that surround women, bodies, and dieting. So make sure you stay tuned to this empowering episode on Unapologetically Woman. Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where women come together to share their unfiltered experiences navigating womanhood. Join us as we dive into candid conversations about periods, perimenopause, postpartum bleeding, miscarriages, and more. This is a safe space where we embrace the raw, real, and often unspoken aspects of being a woman. Get ready to be empowered, inspired, and heard. This is Unapologetically Woman. Welcome back, everybody, to Unapologetically Woman. Today, we are here with Katy, who is a non-diet dietitian. Let me repeat that, you guys. Non-diet dietitian who helps women to ditch dieting and learn how to listen to and trust their bodies instead. Her mission is for women to start to believe that their worth has nothing to do with the size of their pants or the number on the scale, and that we are able to live life more fully when we aren't obsessing about food all the time. Katy, thank you so much for being on the show.
I am happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I think this is so exciting because I was recently talking about the different foods for the different phases of our menstrual cycle. And, it's interesting how, as women, some of us don't even realize that we have 4 phases. We only think about the bleeding aspect, but it's like, hey, well, we do have the follicular phase that happens, and then the ovulatory and luteal and all these different foods that actually support us as women during these different phases. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I'm really interested, in you speaking about the dieting aspect of women and that pressure. And I would love for you to start there, because as a professional dietitian, you see this all the time in women. And what is the main thing, that you find as a dietitian when it comes to women and their bodies?
Gosh, where do we even begin with that? I think that for women, we have attached so much of our self-worth to our bodies, and we have been taught to do that from a young age. There are studies that show that kids as young as the age of 4 to 6 are already afraid of becoming fat. So these kids are in like preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, and they're worrying about becoming fat. And that over half of girls have been on a diet by the age of 10. So, this just is baked into us at such a young age, and it often gets passed down through generations. Like maybe your mom took you to Weight Watchers with her, and it's the intent is good, that people think they're helping when they do this, or maybe it's just sort of a legacy in your family that like this is what women do, and it feels like we just constantly have to be trying to change our body, lose weight, tone up, and fit whatever the mold is of society's expectations. And even that is kind of a moving target. Like it used to be that you're just supposed to be like super skinny, kind of the heroin chic era. And now it's more about like, well, you're supposed to have like a skinny waist and maybe kind of toned, but you need to have like big boobs and you got to have the glutes and a butt. And it's just, it's impossible to keep up with all the things that we're told that we constantly have to do.
I think that's amazing. And I think it's interesting that you say that, because now we do see that where it's like, oh, you need to be full figure. And it's like, dude, not every woman looks like that. And now like you want me to get this waist trainer so that this looks thin here and then like that is not. And I love how you say that, like it's that pressure, like everybody wants their eyebrows to be the same. Like it's like, what? Everybody wants their lips to look the same now. And like everyone wants to contour their nose so that now their nose doesn't look as big. It looks sleek now, And I'm just like, dude, what? Like, and then we get shamed for not living up to that media expectation, not just by women, by men. Like if you're a thin woman now, like, oh, well, you need to gain weight. Excuse me? Like, this is how I'm built. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm
right. It's like
healthy.
no matter what, it's never good enough. You just never reach that perfection, whatever that even means.
And the fact that you're talking about like children, that is
Yeah,
very
it's
disturbing to
disturbing.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm still kind of in awe, like just saying that.
Hmm.
But I'm like 4 to 6, like, why are you even thinking about that? Like, go outside and play in
Exactly.
the yard. Like, get some like dirt in your hands or something, dude.
Yeah.
Connect with
And
the earth.
they start here connect with the earth. That's right. I mean, they start hearing about it such an I've had to confiscate like children's books. There's this Bernstein Bears book where it's like Sister Bear was eating too much junk food, so Mama Bear took it away. Like, nope, we're not reading that one at my house. I mean, it's children's cartoons, sometimes there's like weight stigma and fat shaming built into it. And then the things that they start hearing from, teachers, things they're hearing at home, then it starts with their peers. I mean, it comes at us from all angles from such a young age.
And that makes sense because also, children who are overweight, are also like dealing with like bullies.
They're bullied. And I can, oh my gosh, the number of adults I've worked with that their messed up body image and their eating issues stem back to being teased and bullied from childhood, when like literally that's just how their body was built. Like their body was doing what their body was supposed to do.
And that's interesting you say that because some people like, I don't know if people who still use this term. I'm kind of dating myself here. But I used to hear the term, oh, she's big boned, and that's to say like, that's just her structure, it's not because like she's fat. No, she has like a big bone, like, I'm a small person, but I'm very muscular, whereas there might be another small person and she's not as muscular, she's more so, I don't want to say like on the bony side, but it's just like, it's not as like muscle mass is not as, as great,
absolutely.
And it's just like, that's just who this person is, like, and I remember in ballet at the university, we were in class and I got called out and I got called out because of the way I was shaped. She was like, look at Tonya. She was like, you all should be looking like this. Now, you would think I would feel great about that, right? But now it's like I'm the enemy, to all these girls in ballet who do not have an athletic build. But it's like, dude, I've been dancing since I was 6. I've been running track. I do aerial dance. Like, I love strength training. Like, it's just how I'm built, and that shame, I see it in dance all the time.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. Especially ballet, like where thinness is so valued.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, we really have to stop that. And I love that your specialty is non-diet dietitian because I'm about that life too, and I was talking recently about the luteal phase. And I was like, look, this is the time where you like your appetite should be increased, like, because your body is about to burn more sugar. Like, so you have an increase in appetite. I'm like, do not diet during this time because it is not good for you. Like don't do
and it's like
it.
a recipe to just end up binging because you're like trying to be really like controlled with food, and then eventually you just are like now inhaling the bag of cookies or whatever it is.
I know, right? I'm like, dude, there has to be a balance with this. But at the same time, we did have someone come on and say she's an OBGYN nurse practitioner. And it's funny. She says a lot of times she realizes that a big problem with women is that they don't eat enough.
Agreed.
And you coming on here, saying like women are dieting and it's like, wow. Like that,
we need
that
to stop being afraid of like feeding our bodies and like honoring our appetite. And yes, it's so refreshing to hear a medical provider saying that.
I know, right? And that was what was inspiring too. I'm like, we have a medical provider that's up in here like, y'all need to eat more.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of popular diets like Noom is a good example where they're like, well, we're not a diet, we're just psychology. But if you dig into what they're telling people to do, it's like a 1,200 calorie a day diet, which is about the amount that a toddler eats. And this is what women are told is like, this is, normal and this is healthy and what you should be aiming for. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but that level of restrictive eating can quite literally shut down your hormones and your period and your fertility and all the things. Like, it is not good for your body.
And I love how you bring that up. I love how you bring that up because, first of all, you saying 1,200, I'm like, wait, I'm pretty sure last time I checked, 2,000 was at least the minimum that you should have. So I'm like, that's at least 800 calories less right there. But I remember growing up, it was like a 2,000 calorie diet kind of.
Yeah,
Well,
that
not
was always
diet.
like the standard, like on the like food packaging and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You want to know what's actually interesting? Like, if you look into the research where like that came from, the 2,000 number, and then they say 2,500 for men, it comes from research that they had done, I don't even know in what decade, many years ago, and where they were just looking at like what are people on average eating. And so it's kind of sketchy data to begin with, because when you ask somebody what they're eating, you don't always get super accurate indicators. But they picked 2,000 and 2,500 because they're nice round numbers. But actually, the average for women was closer to like 2,300 or 2,400. And they went ahead and made it lower. So like even that might not be enough. And it's this other subtle way that women are told to ignore and suppress our appetites. Don't eat too much. Don't fully feed yourself. Don't fully nourish yourself. And this is like being given out as a public health recommendation.
I like how you said that. They're like, look, they're recommending this shit to us.
Yeah, I mean, when you really step back and think about it, it's bananas.
It is bananas. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I just think about just growing up, just personally, like within my family, like I have always been a small statue. Like, it's just what it is. Like it's just how
you're built how you're built. Yeah.
I'm built how I'm built, and I would have, I mean, cousins and aunts who were definitely obese, there's no doubt about it. Like, this was the extreme, and they would basically body shame me for being small. It's like, whoa, hold up. I'm actually exercising. I actually choose what I'm going to eat. There were just certain things that just my body did not agree with, like pork, my body just started rejecting from the smell of it cooking. And I was like, oh, I'm not eating that. But it wasn't because I was dieting. It was because like my body was like, no, don't consume this. And it was the same thing, even like with dairy products. I don't do dairy products because my body's like, no, we do not want this. It wasn't something like, oh, I want to lose weight. It was like, no, my body doesn't like it.
Which is so different. Yeah. If we're not eating something because we're connected to our bodies and we're listening to our bodies, that's very different than saying, I don't eat gluten because I heard it's like bad for you. That's very different in mentality.
It really is. And I remember that craze, like that gluten-free diet was like a trend. And then all of a sudden keto diet, which I really am definitely against, is that keto diet, because not even like for me, just growing up with science and math, I'm like, that does not make sense to remove an entire food group out of your diet. I'm like, literally. That sounds dangerous, like to remove an entire food group. Yeah. And I was like, no way. And people would do it because they were getting quicker results. And I'm just like, what happened to us? Because I remember a time where, it mattered like to just exercise. Just decide to make a healthier choice instead of like going for like the candy. Okay, I'm going to decide to go for some blueberries, because it satisfies that sweetness that I want, and I'm just like, okay, so we're doing this now.
like more extreme and drastic and kind of like looking for that quick fix and something that's going to give you instant results. And it's such a fallacy with any type of dieting, because it's any results you get on the front end are temporary, like 95% of the time.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad that you brought that up, because, I don't know what, now that I have you, I have a quick question about that. The trends, like these diet trends, like I feel like every year there's like a new one, that's coming up. And it's like, where do you feel like this is stemming from? Like, I don't, it's like
It is, and it's almost like exhausting to keep up with. I think it's multifaceted. It's always kind of been there. Like if you sort of look back through history, there's always been wellness trends. At one point, smoking was a wellness trend, and then we learned that's a bad idea. And so we've cycled through things, and even like keto, it's really just Atkins and low carb repackaged because we've kind of run out of fresh ideas in some regards. And then with social media now, these things spread like wildfire. And some of the stuff just gets weirder. Like, do you remember, this was maybe a year or two ago, where people were doing quote unquote healthy Coke by taking balsamic vinegar and putting it in sparkling water. And they're like, it tastes just like Coke, but it's healthy. And it's like, what? What are we doing here?
What in the world? Okay. Like, all right, you guys, we really got to get on the ball here. And
it's like, let's step back. And the thing is, like you were saying, just advice for wellness and health that is actually effective, that is just reasonable. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. It's not good clickbait. And so like, yeah, eat a balanced diet, get some exercise. That's not sensational enough to make money, honestly, is what diet culture, ultimately comes down to. And so the advice that's tried and true that has stood the test of time is just not interesting, People are like, well, I don't want to do that. I'd rather stand on my head in the corner and like drink my own urine and call it wellness than just eat reasonably.
I'm glad that you brought that up because not to use like, well, I am going to use my parents as an example. I remember, my dad going to the doctor and being told, hey, if you just change up your diet, include exercise, you won't have to be on this medication,
Mm-hmm.
And for him, I don't want to give up this food. Since I don't want to give up this food, I'm going to choose to be on the medication. Yeah. What I mean?
Yeah.
And it really starts with that. It really starts with us making a choice in what we're choosing to put in our body. But also, I love how you said, a part of your mission is not feeling like you are identified by the size of your waist, like I am not like that, because it does make you feel like ashamed because I'm on the opposite end of things, it's for me, not eating would be detrimental because I could lose weight so quickly. And for others, they're like, oh, well, I wish I had it's like, no. Get in tune with your body and what you need for your body and know that you are beautiful,
Yeah.
Now, if you're like, okay, I am overweight and I actually want to do this for my health, it doesn't mean necessarily that you just have to starve yourself. And I love that.
Yes. I would argue that that's actually worse for your health and that there's so many things we can do that genuinely can help our health. And that's what as a non-diet dietitian, it's like, let's set this dieting crap aside. That's not healthy. It's actually damaging our health. And look at the things you genuinely can do to take care of your body. Because there are lots of them. We're not saying throw health out the window. I'm saying let's do things that make sense, that are effective, and that are tailored to your body. Because everybody's body is different in terms of what it needs and what health concerns they might have.
Exactly. It is so different. And I love how we were talking about like the stigmas that are surrounding, and honestly, like there's just always been this war when it comes to women's bodies, and we're here in America, and with that whole Roe versus Wade thing happening, and it was just like, okay, 1 minute you can't vote because you're a woman, 1 minute, and I'm just like, what is it since the beginning that it's like women have just been cast out? And it's actually, it's crazy. It's not even just the beginning. It's the patriarch. When the patriarch started to come about, that's when the attack, I feel, on women really began. Because before, it wasn't like that. Women had their community circles. It was very more communal and like we understood our bodies better, learning from like the elders and, and now we're separated, and we're not only separated, we're being attacked constantly by the media, by our environment, by like just walking down the street, we are already being judged.
Yeah. And you hear, the ways in which even just violence against women. And like lately, there's been a few women who were like out for a run and got, like attacked and murdered. It's just, yeah, women and their bodies are under attack. I even think a lot about this, about the amount of time and money and energy we as women spend focusing on our bodies and our appearance, and like watching YouTube tutorials on how to do our makeup to look just right, and shopping and going to the gym and doing our hair and nails and all the things. And like, what could we do with that time and money if we weren't so worried about our appearance? What else could we be doing to like change the world or change our lives, and things that men don't have to waste as much time and money doing? And then the fact that men are already paid more in the first place. And so it keeps us small, literally and figuratively. It is kind of the goal when you look at it from that patriarchy standpoint.
And that is their goal,
Yeah.
because like in a patriarch, they believe in, it's funny because I think people have a misinterpretation about patriarch and matriarch. Because when I say it, people think when I say matriarch, they only think about women ruling, and they're not
Mhm.
actually thinking about the way society was ruled. Because in a patriarch society, they believe in power over others, God over man, man over woman. That's actually when that came about, that whole idea. But in the matriarch, they believe in the power from within. And
I
I'm
love that.
like, yes. And I'm like, that's the difference, But because we're in a society that's so ego driven, they focus on, mainly women were, yeah, because women understood that power from within. Women were more in tuned with that power from within. And not
Hmm.
only that, they were helping the ones that were around them see the power that was within them. Their goal wasn't to try to control or force them. It was like, no, everything you need is inside of you. So, that is like a big factor, and I'm like, yo, women, get back in tune to that ancient native belief
Yes.
that is inside of you. Like it's not like once you work on the inside, I promise you naturally start doing things for yourself. Like,
Million percent. Uh-huh. And that's so much of what I see when I'm helping people like reconnect with their appetite and their desires for food, and to be able to actually tune into that instead of following all these external rules and expectations. It is like they're more in tune with themselves and the world in other ways. It's amazing.
it is amazing. Like, and it's so empowering too.
Yes.
Like, and it happens naturally. Like, you just naturally start doing like, and what I like to say is just get better and better, every day. And because, some people's like, oh, do 1% better. They try to put numbers on stuff. I'm like, look, screw that shit. Okay. If yesterday you did this, decide today, I'm going to be better by doing this. And it could just be one thing. That's it, that you focus on. And I feel like we try to change so much at
Yeah.
once. It
Yeah.
gets overwhelming, and that creates anxiety, and we
Yeah.
feel pressured, and going into something that you mentioned earlier about the effects that, dieting actually has on a woman's body, what we're going to do is we're going to go into a quick break, you guys. And when we come back from the commercial break, we are going to have Katy actually go into, I don't want to mispronounce the medical term, okay? But we're going to have her go into the aspect of how dieting and restricting ourselves of food actually affects our menstruation. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to Unapologetically Woman. So we were having a very entertaining conversation here with Katy and, about the stigmas that surround our bodies as women. And in particular, we're talking about dieting here and how that is not healthy for you as a woman. And I want to emphasize that she is a non-diet dietitian. And I think that is so important to emphasize. And Katy is actually going to talk to us a little bit about what she touched on earlier about us restricting our foods and how restricting our foods is actually not healthy for us as women. And Katy, I would love for you to go in a little bit more about that, whether it be about a particular diet or just in general, how restricting our food affects our menstruation.
Yeah, let's dig into this. So it's fascinating because this is something that very few people even know about, even people in the medical world. So, what happens with our periods when we're dieting is it can reach a point where the body starts to interpret the fact that we're not eating enough as a threat of starvation. Because your body doesn't know why you're not eating enough. It just knows there's not enough food coming in. It doesn't know you're just trying to be healthy and lose weight. And even people who are, maybe they're not even trying to lose weight per se, but they're just trying to eat healthy. If they're going too far with that, they can inadvertently be under fueling their body calorically, like they're eating tons of fruits and vegetables and salads and all that. And when the body thinks that there's not enough food coming in, it can start to suppress your hormones and basically shut down your reproductive system because your body is thinking, if there's not enough food available, we can't sustain life. Like if this person were to get pregnant, she couldn't sustain a pregnancy. And so we're going to shut down her estrogen and try to prevent her from getting pregnant because it's not safe right now for her or the baby. And so many people lose their period or have kind of sporadic and irregular periods, and they don't know what's going on. They think, well, maybe I need to eat even healthier. Maybe I need to be on birth control. Or some people who are already on birth control, they don't know that this is what would be happening if they weren't on it because the birth control is masking it and it is causing them to have what looks like a period, but it's not. And when this is happening, when we don't have enough estrogen circulating in order to menstruate, or if you're menstruating only because you're on birth control and you wouldn't be otherwise, what that also means is that your bones are demineralizing. And I have had clients who have developed osteopenia and osteoporosis. This is really common in athletes because their energy needs are really high. They're being really active and they're under eating, and they'll start getting stress fractures. And we start to dig in and look at their bone health. So their bones are demineralizing. What also happens, what can happen without enough estrogen circulating is it puts our heart at risk for heart disease. So this is why, if you think about women who have gone through menopause, so elderly women are at higher risk of heart disease and osteoporosis. It's because they went through menopause. They don't have the estrogen anymore. And so we want to make sure that we're feeding our bodies enough for our hormones to be healthy. Like there's all this talk right now about balancing your hormones and hormone health and all of this stuff. And where I think that discussion is missing the mark is that the number one thing we need to be talking about is that your hormones will be out of whack if you're not eating enough. Like if that's not happening, none of the rest of what you're going to do with nutrition makes any difference whatsoever. It doesn't matter because your body is in survival mode.
That is, it goes back to earlier when you was like, the OBGYN nurse practitioner who came on and said like women not eating enough, like she's a hormone specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, you guys, this is confirmation. Okay. Like this is confirmation. Like she just said like it. And you know what? I've never heard that before about our hormones being suppressed from not eating enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's called, sometimes in the research, it's called low energy availability or LEA. And within the world of sports, it's become more well known. So it used to be called the female athlete triad. And they actually, it was including amenorrhea, so not having your periods, low bone density, and disordered eating were the triad, the three parts of it. They realized that it happens to men too. And so they've renamed it. The acronym is RED-S. and it stands for relative energy deficiency. So energy deficiency means not enough calories in sport, because they see it a lot with athletes.
And that's interesting because I was very athletic, but I never lost my period, you know?
Mhm.
And I know, and for me, even though like at the beginning it was painful, I was grateful not to lose my period because even then I knew that I was healthy, like
Yeah.
when my period was coming
And
on.
there are athletes where, like in dance, gymnastics, running, where women think it's become normalized that they think, oh, this means I'm in really good shape now that I'm not having my period. And some coaches think that, some doctors think that. And it's like, no, 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 no. This is your body crying out for help.
It is your body crying out for help. It's like, dude, we should be having a freaking period.
Right.
And if it stops, that's not a good thing because that's our indicator as women, like, yo, something is going on. And I was always grateful that I never lost my period because I knew I was healthy.
Yeah.
And that was the sign for me, you know, and even though I had bad periods, I would never be the one who'd be like, oh, I wish this would stop. I would say things like, man, I wish I could take my uterus, take it out, let it do its thing, and then put it back in.
Put it
Like,
back
and
in.
then,
Yeah.
put it back. Like, I always knew that it should be a part of me, you
Yeah.
know, but I was like, if I could just take it out, let it do its thing. Okay. Do your thing, uterine lining, shed,
Yes.
great, go back in.
Come on back.
Awesome. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I so get that. Yes. One more thing I want to touch on here, because it's also very related. I have had a shocking number of clients who come to me and they have spent their lifetime battling their weight and they feel like they can't lose weight. They've tried all the dieting. And when I start to dig into their menstrual history, we'll find out that they actually have undiagnosed PCOS. And I don't know if this comes up much on your show, but polycystic ovarian syndrome, it messes with our metabolism and it often causes weight gain and makes it very hard to lose weight. It causes insulin resistance and blood sugar issues and all this stuff. And the periods are one of the indicators of what's going on. And women often in that scenario, they just feel at war with their body. They've got these wonky periods. They are fighting their weight. They're constantly dieting. They're obsessing about food and they feel like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. We just need to understand what's going on within your body and address it correctly, and things can improve.
interesting. We did have someone actually come on and speak up PCOS and
Did
how
you? Yeah.
she started to, which is funny, you guys, she started to gain control through her food intake, you
Mhm.
guys.
Yeah.
If you guys are not realizing that food is a major aspect in our health as women, I don't know what else to tell you because,
Yes. And
we're
it's like,
hearing.
let's have like food positivity instead of being afraid of food, you know?
Yes, I'm so with that. And you know what? I would love for you to talk about like food positive. So, okay, for example, like the women who, because you mentioned this, who lose their period, right?
Yeah.
What is it like as far as food wise? Do you recommend for women who do lose their period? Like, do you have any type of like
Yeah.
tips? Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So the crux of it is they need to start eating more. And for a lot of them, that's terrifying. A lot of times they've worked very hard to control their food and to eat less. And they're like, oh my gosh, am I going to gain weight? Because sometimes what's also happening there is they've suppressed their weight below where their body is meant to be. And they need to gain weight. They need to gain body fat because, spoiler alert, women are supposed to have fat on their bodies. And because of the stigma we talked about earlier, that can be straight up terrifying. There's a great book for anyone listening who's like, oh my gosh, is this me? It's called No Period, Now What? And it goes into all of this. And there's a whole bunch of examples in there of women who went through this and what it was like to get their period back. It can take months or even a year or more of having to eat more and to not exclude food groups. You need carbohydrates, you need protein, you need healthy fats, and to let your body heal and to stop over exercising like crazy and to prove to your body that it is safe and there is an abundance of nourishment available. And again, emotionally, this can be so hard because we're taught to fear eating and gaining weight and body fat and all these things that are healthy for us, especially if we've gone too far the other way and have lost our period.
I'm glad that you mentioned about the fat because
Yeah.
like growing up, I knew that women were supposed to have more fat like on their flipping bodies, you know, like
Yeah.
because like I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, we do need that fat. Like I don't know, like I don't know why, you know, I would just that was like a big thing of women trying to like cut out fat. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we do need that. Like and
Right.
like you said, healthy fats too. Like, you know, I think it is it quinoa that
Yeah.
has like all yeah.
Quinoa's great. And you mentioned like omega-3s earlier, like those are amazing. You know, oils, salmon, tuna, nuts, avocado, all that good stuff.
All
Our
that good
bodies love it.
stuff. And, you know, and they're great food. I mean, shit. Like, I mean, like, it should be enjoyable. It should be pleasurable, you know. And I find that food is more pleasurable and enjoyable too. When, like, for me, first thing in the morning, I know protein and fruits first thing in the morning. For some
Yeah.
reason, my energy levels are off the charts when I
Yeah.
include protein first thing in the morning. And as I, you know, as you learn more about your body and you're doing research, you see how much protein plays a big part
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
our health. I'm like, holy shit. Like for
Yeah.
pretty much every phase, there needs to be some type of protein that is
Yeah.
included. And I'm just like, whoa. But I was big on protein though, because I was doing strength training, you know, and I was
Yeah.
doing aerial dance,
Yeah.
which requires a lot of upper body strength. So I was big on protein, you know, and I just think that's really like amazing. Like we just have so much power, you
Hmm.
know, and it's just like, dude, it's just a matter of I guess shedding off all the bullshit that we've been fed as women, as you know, other people defining basically who we are
Yeah.
as women.
Exactly. We need to like shed the bullshit the way we shed our inner lining, you know? It's like it's gotta go.
Yes, I
Yes.
love that.
Yes, and to like take back our power to unapologetically eat and nourish our bodies and stop spending all of our time and our energy obsessing about shrinking ourselves and taking up less space and weighing less and like take back your power through your eating, through your food, through listening to your body and stop comparing yourself to everybody else's body. I know that's easier said than done, but sometimes we need that pep talk.
I agree. I agree. And it's just a matter of like listening, right? Like for me, like I don't know. I'm pretty in tune with my body. So even the slightest changes I feel like
Yeah.
if I don't eat enough or if I'm hungry, guess what? I get nauseous.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, wait, why am I nauseous? And I'm like, okay, it's either water or food. You know, I'm like, which one? Oh, I have not had enough water today. Let me make sure I am getting in my water. And, you know, knowing that, like, you know, I don't know if women, you guys know this, but your water consumption is not just that standard 8 ounce, like 64 ounces
Right, the
a day.
64 ounces a day. Yeah, yeah.
It should be like your whatever your body weight is, divide that in half, and that's how many ounces you should have. So if you are a 100-pound person, you should be having 50 ounces a day. Okay, not including if you have coffee, you guys. If you're
I know
consuming
so many of us are so obsessed
diuretics,
with coffee, and I would like to make a public service announcement that coffee is not a meal. I don't care if it's a latte, it's not a meal.
yes, yes, this is breaking news, you
Yeah,
guys.
we're actually breaking news. Broadcast this everywhere.
Coffee is not a meal, and yeah, it's definitely not. You know, and it's funny I started using like coffee and tea differently. You know, like
How so?
I would have like a I don't know if you're familiar with like pura tea. It's a Chinese tea.
Uh-uh.
But it's used for like grounding and cleansing, but it's good for digestion.
Okay.
So I would have like that tea after eating, you know, something to kind of like aid in the digestion. You know, I avoid coffee first thing in the morning. First thing I have is water, you know, and that was because I knew that it was helping my brain cells. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh, make sure I have water before anything. Like I'm just like it's 12 something, I'm just now having coffee, you know, like just because I want it, you know, it's not like I it's my meal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's replacing something. And I think that's important too, you know, like the habit that we start with in the morning when it
For
comes to our
sure.
meals, because
Yeah.
like you should not be skipping breakfast, you guys.
Nope.
Like,
I know it's all this intermittent fasting crap out there. No, no, no. You need breakfast. There is so much research to support breakfast. Anything that you think intermittent fasting is helping you with, we can accomplish that in other ways. Eat your breakfast and eat the protein with the breakfast.
yeah, it's like get that in. And like for me, I realized that I need to have food every 2 hours.
Uh-huh.
Every 2 hours, I need to be having something going into my body. So I started planning that on my schedule. It's like,
I
okay,
love it.
right here,
Yes.
snack, right here, lunch, right here, snack, dinner. Like that is like, and I would make sure that I was eating, because oftentimes we are such in a go, 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 go mode
Yeah.
that for me personally, I would honestly sometimes forget to eat like the
Yeah, it's
whole
easy to go without eating. Yeah. Or people to
yeah.
feel like, oh, I shouldn't eat right now. It's not time to eat, or I shouldn't have a snack. And I love that you're flipping that around and you're like, no, I know what I need. And I am going to intentionally plan that and build that into my schedule and be prepared for it and take a snack with me if I need to. Like, that's the attitude that I love approaching things with.
Absolutely beautiful. And you guys, I hope that you've learned a lot of things from Miss Katy today from being on the show. Now, Katy, is there anything that you would like to share, or anything that you would like to promote for us to support you as women?
Ooh, okay. I would love anyone hearing this who is like, okay, I'm intrigued, I'm interested, I'm kind of into this conversation. Come check out my podcast. I have over 100 episodes. There's so many topics on there. It's called Rebuilding Trust with Your Body.
I love that. Rebuilding trust. I'm writing this down myself, you guys.
Yeah.
Rebuilding trust with your body. Oh, wow. That is absolutely amazing. Katy, thank you so much for being on the show.
This was amazing. I feel like we could have like sat around and chatted all afternoon. So these are the best types of conversations. They really are.
They really are. Oh my gosh. And you know what? We're probably gonna have you back on,
I
because
would
I
love
would
it.
love to do like a more so like we talk about specific foods,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
like, how that actually like, affects different aspects. And maybe we can get into the different lifestyles of foods, like those who choose to be a vegetarian, maybe things that you really need to consider as a vegetarian that you need to actually be getting in your body,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
like, because I have friends that are vegan and things of that nature. But honestly, I feel like when I started reincorporating meat back in my diet, things for my health started changing better.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's one of those things that, yeah, if someone's going to follow that lifestyle, they do need to be intentional and kind of diligent about certain specific nutrients. And so it's possible. You just kind of have to know what you're doing and not wing it.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people are kind of winging it. They're like,
I agree.
oh, vegan, that's trending right now. I'm going to be vegan.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Or people who are like, I'm going to be vegan and do keto and intermittent fasting all at the same time. And then lo and behold, they lose their period. It's funny how that happens. Because all they can eat at that point is like organic kale.
Oh my gosh, kale is so harsh on the stomach. I don't know if you
Ooh,
guys
yeah.
know, it's not easy for the stomach to digest, you guys. We've been really fooled, because you think it's a veggie, so you're like, oh, okay, I'm good. But it's not easy for your
Well,
stomach
if
to
you see
digest.
when like when to properly cook it, you're supposed to like massage it. It's a whole thing.
There's a whole thing about it. And it's like, whoa. And it's like you said, that lack of knowledge, because it's a
Yeah.
leafy green. So you're not thinking that like your body's gonna have difficulty with it, Like I feel like we only associate that with meat.
Yep. Yep.
So that's very interesting. Thank you so much, Katy, for being here.
Of course. I'm more than happy to do this.
All right, you guys, we're going into our closing, so stay tuned.